Hi, everybody. This is Paul Doski from Everything Horror Podcast. Tonight we have a special guest from a publishing company who started back in summer of 2015. This is John Brhel with us. He is one of the founders that created Cemetery Gates Media with a buddy of his, which he can go more into that as we're doing this. And without further ado, John Brhel, how are you?
Hey, Paul. Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us after the hectic weekend, and that's all good because, I mean, it's a pretty hardcore month, as you know, because Christmas is like quite a few days away.
Oh yeah. It's been a little crazy.
Yeah. So John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for the listeners to know who you are and where you like come from, or tell us a little bit about Cemetery if you want?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, this being everything horror, I'm a horror writer. I don't generally call myself a horror writer. I think more of like supernatural, paranormal, kind of dark
Rich
folklore
fantasy.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's really kind of like a genre fiction, like across the whole board. Horror. I write a little sci-fi and stuff, but it's generally on the spooky end. So yeah, it would be, I guess I would call myself more like, yeah, horror, paranormal writer. I live in upstate New York. Yeah, so a couple years ago, my buddy and I, my buddy Joe Sullivan and I, we decided to write a book called Tales from Bellevue Cemetery, which is it's a 17-story collection. It's all centered around this one cemetery in our hometown of Johnson City, New York. And we wrote that book, just kind of as like a one-off thing, like, oh, we're going to write this one book, and okay, cool, great, wow, it'd be cool to write a book. And then that book just, we enjoyed doing it so much, and we started selling books, and that that led to the next book and the next one.
Nice.
So that's what we've been doing.
Well, good for you. I mean, so you were mentioning you're a horror writer. Now, how did you get into the horror genre?
Mm, that is a long and storied thing, but I guess yeah, I don't know. I've been into creepy stuff like ever since I was a little kid. So this is going back as far as like even like watching Scooby-Doo or something. I was always like drawn to, not that Scooby-Doo is a very terrifying show, but they just kind of like the aesthetic of horror and ghosts and haunted houses and monsters and stuff like that. I think I liked, I guess I sort of, I didn't really like being scared, but I liked the kind of
The idea of the suspense.
yeah, the idea of the suspense of like what's that around the corner, it's like the mystery aspect of it more than anything.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know. And then I used to read a lot of horror books when I read the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books, which I'm sure I'll talk about. The Goosebumps books. I read a lot of kids horror stuff back when I was a kid in elementary school. And then, that led into sort of branching off into other stuff like the X-Files and stuff like that. Not straight horror, but still, kind of that creepy bent. And then, I don't know, I've just always been into this stuff for a while, and I never wrote any of it really until, just a few years ago. I just try to crack at it.
Well, that's interesting. Speaking of what you were saying about scary stories in the dark, that actually goes into the next question because I was hoping you were going to say that. Because the question pretty much goes, what inspired your new book called Corpse Cold, A New American Folklore?
Okay, so Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yeah. What about it, though? Like, I guess that inspired you. Like, what made it just okay, Corpse Cold. We need to do this.
So going back to the first, when I talked about the Tales from Bellevue Cemetery book, so the idea with that was actually we wanted to kind of do a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book, even back like just a couple years ago, the first book we did. And if you see the cover, the same guy who did Corpse Cold, all the illustrations and the cover is Chad Worley. He did the cover for Tales from Bellevue Cemetery. But at the time, like we just couldn't convince him to do like a full illustrated book, and we also just didn't really have a working relationship with him yet to really kind of go into a big project like that.
Mhm.
So we kind of, we put it off, but we'd always had the idea, oh my God, like we got to do a book like that's sort of like a grown up version of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And so, yeah, Joe and I had been interested in that for a long time. Over the years we had, we'd read those stories actually at campfires and stuff when my buddies and I had gone camping. I remember reading Harold a few years ago over a campfire. And yeah, we've just always been into that sort of thing. And we talked about writing folklore kind of horror stories like years ago and never panned out. And then, yeah, when we finally got, after a few books in, we talked to Chad and said, hey, what do you think about doing this book like with us and making it fully illustrated, having an image for each story to go with each story. And he was really on board with it. He said he always wanted to do, illustrate a book. So that's sort of how it happened. So yeah, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series, we were huge fans of that. And with Corpse Cold, we're trying to, like I said, like kind of as if that series had grown up with the audience. So people who grew up reading those books and who are in, their late 20s or 30s or whatever now, they could read these stories now and kind of still get that same sort of storytelling style and along with the same similar kind of images, but the images and the stories themselves are more adult appropriate. The language, there's some adult situations, and I think the themes are more mature than those stories were.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, growing up, as for me, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was probably one of my biggest like childhood memories ever. I mean, just because before you go to bed, the first thing you want to read is like one of those stories, just maybe keep you up at night or whatever. But like I still kind of remember I borrowed my book from the library back in middle school, and that just completely, I guess you could say, got me into the horror genre at first. I mean, technically, I kind of was started to be curious with the horror genre when I was young and stupid, and instead of going to bed like my parents told me to, I snuck downstairs somehow without them not knowing, and I peeked into the living room, and there was Bram Stoker Dracula playing.
Oh man.
So I kind of was watching for a little bit, and then when I thought I had seen way too much, I went back upstairs. So, because
That's awesome.
yeah, I mean, I just remember the werewolf scene is when I was like the little kid type of thing. Like that's all I remember, the werewolf scene with the table and stuff. So it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's freaky for a little kid.
Yeah. So, John, what is your first memory of reading Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Yeah. Geez, I don't know if I can really. It seems to be. It's like so much part of my childhood. It's like I feel like it's like always it had always been there. So I can't really think of like the actual first time I was reading it. But I mean, I definitely to kind of connect it with like my actual life. There's a story. Oh God, now of course I can't remember them. I think it's called The Window. Do you know that story?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So The Window. I actually that story was like the first time I actually connected. I mean, maybe a scary story I'd read or seen like with like my life and actually being afraid of something. So that story's about this guy who looks out his window and he sees this kind of monstrous vampiric looking figure coming toward him in the window at night, and he's kind of just frozen there, unable to do anything. And I actually, in my bedroom when I was little and when I was reading these books, was like I had this huge window facing this field, and I remember, excuse me, I remember reading that at night, and then like just sitting there in my bedroom with like the moon shining down onto the field and seeing, just imagining like, oh my God, this could this happen to me? Like this person could come right up to my window and look right down upon me. And so yeah, I don't know. It's probably,
Do you think you would
I guess I
freeze
was
up
8 years
too?
old. I think I would be the kind of person who would just like go under my covers. I don't know. Just like pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah, this is not real. I'm sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably had like nightmares that actually happened. I mean, I think I kind of sort of vaguely remember that happening. That, yeah, somebody came up to my window, but yeah, I think it was a nightmare. I'm pretty sure it was a nightmare and it wasn't real.
I think the most scariest thing as a kid for me was I couldn't sleep one night because I believe I was having like a really bad nightmare or something.
Uh-huh.
So I woke up and my bedroom door is shut, and I cannot find the door handle. I cannot
Oh my God.
find it. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, where's the door handle? Like, oh my God, I'm gonna get killed in this room. Like, let me out. So I started screaming, and then of course, you know how that goes. Your mom comes in,
All
tucks
right.
you into bed, says everything's fine, there's no monsters, and then you go back to sleep. Like, I don't know if I believe you, but okay. Yeah,
Oh man, wow.
that's probably the worst time of being scared was me back in the day. I'm not
Oh
too scared anymore, but it's just I still remember that.
yeah, God, you just like reminded me of just, just took me back to actually being, waking up in the middle of the night from like a terrible nightmare and actually having to go to my mom or just being like unable to go to sleep. Like, I mean, obviously I haven't done that in a long, long time, but God, those was like terrifying, waking up from a really bad nightmare and
Yep.
just like, oh my God, I don't want to go back to sleep because I'm gonna have to experience that again. And oh man,
Well,
jeez.
now that we've grown up, it might be different because now we could just be like, oh, I just had a nightmare. That was so scary that I should write it down.
Yeah, or that, yeah.
Or that, I mean, you could,
I wish that happened though. God, I never have like interesting enough nightmares. They're always just too weird, like to be turned into a story.
well, this is a fun little fact about me. So I quit smoking about 5 years ago, and I actually had to use Chantix. And if anybody doesn't know Chantix, it's a Germany drug that's like $80, but I didn't have to pay for anything because of my insurance. But the side effects though include like you do not want to take it if you're depressed or like all this other stuff because it can make you suicidal. It can either change your moods, like you can become like bipolar type of deal.
Yeah.
You can get depressed if you aren't depressed, and then the other one is nightmares. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. None of that shit happened. I didn't even
Yeah.
have any nightmares. So I kind of started running a little joke around saying like, oh, I guess my mind is too scary to make a nightmare anymore kind of thing.
Right.
So that's what I used to start to say.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm too freaked out by real world stuff to be
Yeah.
really afraid by stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, this world is something.
Yeah.
That's why we get to write about it and try to find things to not remember that the world exists for a while.
Right. Yeah, I definitely just writing and stories and fiction is definitely, it's definitely like an escape for sure
Oh yeah,
in a way.
like I kind of like write poetry and stuff in a way, but I kind of put
Mhm.
mine in almost like song lyrics, if you want to say.
Mhm.
But I base it off like either my life or something that I've seen, and I just try to take ideas to portray a story, you could say. Like I do that through my poetry or lyrics or whatever you want to call my stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So in a way, I know what you mean when it comes to like your writer's block. Like that is really good way to escape reality for a while because you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want to do?
Right.
Or what do I want to write about today or whatever. So yeah, or otherwise I just play video games with my fiance or we watch movies and stuff. So I mean, we just got done watching Krampus. Now we're going to be watching Silent Night, Deadly Night at some
Oh,
point.
cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Krampus yet. That's on my to watch list.
What?
Is it
Oh
good?
God. You haven't seen Krampus? Oh man.
No.
Oh man, that's probably like our favorite movie
Are you
for Christmas
serious?
time. Yeah, for Christmas time. Yeah. Otherwise, another good one is the Christmas Horror Story.
I haven't seen that either.
If you have Netflix, it's on there.
Oh, okay. I have Netflix. I've seen it on my list. I have a very long backlog queue to get to. I think I might have told you the other day. I have two little kids, so I hardly have any
Yeah,
time to
I
watch
actually
movies.
didn't know you had any little kids until last night.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So I don't get very much time to watch movies these days, but I'll definitely have to check those out when I can.
Yeah, when you can. Yeah, just go get a babysitter or have somebody watch them for a while, and you'll be good.
There you go.
Yeah, have like an adult weekend, and you'll be fine.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So Chad. God damn it, John. I'm looking at another question, so that's why I
All
said
good.
Chad. All right. So the next question I got for you, John, is what made you decide to do a Kickstarter for your fifth book?
Yeah, I think yeah, I guess that answer is I guess two. There's like two. It's twofold. One, I mean, we really needed to secure enough funds to actually be able to pay Chad, what he was worth for all the art that he did.
Hmm.
Because so you have the book, and I don't know, I'm assuming not everybody listening has the book. So the artwork is, yeah, very reminiscent of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and
Yeah.
it's really good. I mean, it's really good. I mean, I don't, this isn't gloating because I didn't illustrate it, but so it's, yeah, the guy, Chad is a really amazing artist,
Oh yeah,
and
he is.
we were
Yeah.
really lucky to find him, and so. Yeah, I sort of lost my train of thought there. Yeah. So we wanted to be able to pay him, what he, was worth for his art. And then another thing, I mean, it's also a really good just promotional tool in terms of,
That's true.
getting our name out there because websites and blogs and stuff are more apt to, cover just instead of just some random book release. I mean, there's a million book releases every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look, these guys are doing a Kickstarter fund, and check this out. So, it was a really good way to, get the word out about it for people. People had never heard of us before.
Which I have never heard of you. I'll be honest.
So there you go. So it worked.
So yeah, it worked. Yeah, exactly. I think I saw your promotion on Facebook because I want to say you sponsored it, or if it wasn't that, it was Kickstarter that said like, "Hey, here's some like Kickstarter things that you might be interested in," and yours popped up somewhere, and I'm like, "What is this?"
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we
So
had a
yeah,
promotion on Facebook going, and yeah, also Kickstarter was really awesome because it was like half the funding because you could see where the traffic was coming from,
yeah.
and like it was like a lot of the traffic was coming directly from Kickstarter. Um, so even like they would send out notifications and stuff. We actually got featured in their like projects we love
Oh,
thing,
that
which
is
was like really
awesome.
cool. So I guess we got in some special emails that went out and all that sort of stuff. And then actually the coolest thing was like, so we were actually so we hit our goal. We had the $3,000 goal.
Yep.
And then, so we had like 2 days left and we were at like 20,000. And then Kickstarter sent out like a 48-hour reminder email, like, oh, this project's about to end. Like, and we ended up getting like another like $9,000 in like a day or 2 days. So Kickstarter itself is like insane. Like for
Promoting. Yeah.
promoting. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. We
that's
couldn't believe
awesome.
we couldn't believe it. We're like, oh my God, what the heck?
Yeah,
So
I'm kind of frowning because I wish I was able to pitch more for those Corpse Cold cards. I only got like I think 8 of them. out of the 25 cards,
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
So I was kind of frowning on that because they look amazing. Like I looked at mine because I was like, oh, whatever. And then I noticed in the hardcover book of Corpse Code that I have, I was like, why is this not shutting? And then I find the
Ooh.
cards, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh.
okay.
So I'm like, well, this is cool, but now I wish I was able to get all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, they're available.
Are they?
If anybody wants to get them, yeah, we actually have like a site where you can buy them. You can buy like the packs, like they come in the complete set.
Ooh,
I don't know, I forget offhand what they cost because Joe set it up. Try like
maybe
15
25.
or maybe 20 or 25 or something like that.
I want to say it was like
Um,
25 because whoever sent out that email about the cards said it was 25 for
okay,
the.
then there you go. Yeah, it's 20, must be 25. So they're available if anybody wants to get them. Yeah, they're totally available anytime you want.
Where do
But yeah,
you
you
go
got.
now?
So you know what? We need to probably link that on our webpage. So thanks for reminding me.
I
So I would
will
go. So
do
I
this.
guess whenever this goes up, whenever this goes live, as of this going live, there'll be a link on our website.
Well, it'll be up by tonight.
Okay, well, all right. I'm gonna hurry and make sure it's up there.
Well, don't worry, because with our because we use Podbean, it takes
Uh-huh.
like almost a couple hours for a notification even to be like, hey, new episode's up. Like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
so by the time this gets up, it probably won't tell everybody that it's up until like tomorrow morning.
Okay. So anybody listening, you can go to our website and order them from there.
Yes, because the link should be up.
Cool.
Yeah, and we will put a link in the description too once we see it too. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
yeah, because you'll probably see an order come through from me or something.
Rad.
Yeah. So I think you kind of answered this question. So I'm kind of looking at it like, do I really want to ask it when I think you've already answered it? But I guess
Okay.
if you want to be more, um, what's that word I'm looking for? More detailed about
Elaborate?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
detailed?
thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, elaborate. Yeah. So this one is, how did Chad get involved for Corpse Code? But if you want, we can actually change that. So how did Chad even become part of Cemetery Gates? Could you mention Chad was with you before?
Yeah, so Chad, I actually originally, when Joe and I we wrote that first book, we were like, okay, we got to find an artist who can sort of, emulate that Stephen Gamble Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark style. And so I actually went on Instagram and I just searched the hashtag Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And
Hmm.
luckily Chad had tagged like all of he tags all his art with that hashtag. So I found all his stuff like right away. And I was like, oh my God, we got to get this guy. So we got him to illustrate the cover for our first book. And then when we put out another book after that. And then for our third book, we were like, okay, this is going to be a similar sort of style. We want to kind of have this like uniform look to our books. So we went
Right.
back to Chad. We went back to Chad again, and he did our book At the Cemetery Gates Year One. He did the cover for that, and then so that sort of, he became a little more, not a partner, but I mean, we had a working relationship with him. He delivered exactly what we wanted. We paid him, so there's
He's
trust
happy,
there.
you're happy. I mean, the
Yeah,
artwork is great. I mean,
yeah.
for people actually listening to this podcast, just on Podbean, the image that you're seeing is actually from one of the stories from the book. I don't remember which one it is, so don't ask me because I forgot. I
What's the
apologize.
what's the picture?
A person standing underneath the lights, like street lights, it looks like.
Oh, that's the woman on the campus green.
Okay, there you
That
guys
is.
go.
Yeah.
There you guys go. John just helped you all. So if that looks awesome to you, Corpse Code is going to be your answer for that
Cool.
story that he just said.
Awesome.
Yeah. Um. So here's a tricky question for you, John. So
Okay.
what's your favorite book that you've released so far?
Ooh, that is a tricky question because I feel like I can answer like all of the books for one for a different reason. Because obviously, like this, Corpse Cold has like been our. I mean, it's the newest one. It's the one we're most excited about. It's the most different because it's fully illustrated. It's been the most well received. Like we've obviously the Kickstarter thing was a success, and so a lot of people are reading it, and so that's exciting. So I mean, I would probably say that, and then I don't know. Actually, like Joe and I kind of differ on this because I think Joe probably thinks um, something else. He likes something else better. But actually, our second book, Marvelry's Curiosity Shop, that's probably actually my favorite book that we wrote. So that's about an antique. That's about this retired magician who owns an antique shop, and not all of the items, but most of the items in the shop have to be cursed or hexed in some sort of way. And
Ah,
so people who come into the shop, they buy an item and they take it home, and they think it's just some ordinary item, and it's
it's
not.
cursed.
And yeah, it's cursed, and something weird happens as a result of that, and that's where the story blossoms from. So it's sort of like a Twilight Zone sort of thing. It's
Tales
actually
from the Dark Side.
Oh yeah, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side. Yeah, it's actually been a lot of people have actually compared it to like Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone sort of stuff. So,
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, I love that. I loved writing that one. That was fun.
Hmm. Well, there you go. I guess you could say that one's your favorite.
Okay, cool. There you go.
Yeah, I
Figured it
mean,
out.
if you loved writing that one, then it sounds like that one was like mainly, well, if it came to your head first, then yeah, clearly that's your
Yeah,
favorite.
there you go. You helped me
Yeah,
figure it out.
yeah, that's
Cool.
awesome. That's actually one of the books I'm now missing from you. That one and Carol of a Haunted Man is the other one that I don't
Oh
have
yeah,
down.
that one's an outlier. That one's a little different. That's a little more of like a drama with like some paranormal elements to it. And it's actually it's like a Christmas novella. It's actually inspired by A Christmas Carol, so it's
Ah,
definitely way
you just
different than a lot
answered
of our
my
other
damn
stuff.
question then.
Oh, okay.
That was actually one of my questions. Then the question was, is a Carol of a Haunted Man inspired by A Christmas Carol? And if
Yeah.
so, what aspects did you use for inspiration? That was actually
Okay.
the
Cool.
question.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
yes, it was inspired by A Christmas Carol. So I mean, it's not. It was inspired by. It's not trying to do like a direct homage or the sequel or anything like that.
No.
There's no Scrooge in it or anything like that. But actually, the main character's name is Jacob Martin, which is a sort of like a side spin off of Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. Just the name is a reference. And the book is set up in 5 acts, like 5 chapters, just like A Christmas Carol was. And we tried to kind of actually have like 3 ghosts, quote unquote, in the book, but they're not actually ghosts. So there's a lot of allusions to Christmas Carol, but yeah, it's its own thing. It's about this guy who is recently divorced, and he's living in his old childhood home, and he gets visited by let's just say an author who is not of this world anymore, and who helps him write his book, and other stuff happens from that.
That already sounds awesome. So I'll have to definitely buy that like next week when I get paid again.
Cool, rad. Jeez, man. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
seeing your name on everything apparently.
yeah, apparently.
Cool.
uh, well, I don't know if you'll see it from Amazon because that's where I'll probably get it, but
Oh,
maybe you
okay. Yeah,
might.
we don't see any names. Yeah,
Yeah, because I
but
don't know any other place to really get it besides Barnes and Noble and Amazon, but we can get to that near the end.
okay, cool.
But here, I know how much you like tricky questions, John. So
Oh, I
the
love
next,
it.
yeah. So the next one is if you could change one book, which one would it be and why?
I'm sorry. If I could do what book?
If you could change one book, why would you change it and which one would it be?
Okay. You said you change one of our own books?
Yeah. Like if you could change one of your books, which one would you pick to go back to rewrite it or whatever, and
Oh.
why?
Jeez. Oh man, that's another like tough question because I feel like I want to say like all of them because it's like once we finish them and like we look back months or weeks or a year later, like we Joe and I both are like, oh man, that's like we don't like that story as much, or what is this description, I would change this now, and that sort of thing. And so I don't know, I mean probably the first one, Tales from Valley View Cemetery, just because it was our first book, and I think we were, even though it was only a couple of years ago, I think we've grown a lot as writers. I think since then, and realized like what things work and what doesn't, what things don't, and there's some, there's things in there that I still think it's a really good book. I love the book. But I would probably there's like a description here or there that I was like, oh god, I'd probably write that differently now or something. But I still really like, out of anything though, I think that book is really cohesive, and I like how like all the stories take place in one place. So I wouldn't change anything but the structure. But yeah, probably just some writing changes. But
Yeah,
other than
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, you've grown up, so you know you're wrong from rights now, what worked, what doesn't. So yeah, I could see you going back. I mean,
yeah.
that's like me and my fiance. We got asked what our not worst, but what's our least favorite episode that we've done so far, and we both said the first one.
Oh yeah, right.
Because I don't know if you've heard any of our stuff, but if you ever go back to the first one, like the very first episode that me and her did, that is so bad, so bad. Because one, we were trying to get used to the idea of becoming people to do a podcast too, because we pretty much are doing this for a hobby. Like we love horror so much that we're just like we would love to just talk with people who love horror too, and and share it with the world and about how much we love something, dislike, or could have changed, and that's how everything horror came to be, pretty much, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that's what you should, that's the kind of people who should be running podcasts, people who are just love it for what it is and are just genuinely interested in it. So that's cool.
Yeah. And I'll have to send you some stuff later of how me and my fiance met, because I think you'll get a kick out of it. Everybody else does, anyway.
Okay.
We're also known as the creepy couple. So, because of the fact of how we met. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I try to keep the the myth, or the rumor or whatever of how creepy couple come to light, I guess.
Okay, cool. I'll have to hear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so moving on. So John, what would you say is your favorite piece out of Corpse Cold? Do you have a favorite piece?
Yes. Um, Pardon a few ums on my behalf.
It's all right.
Geez. I actually really like probably Dracula's Bride for a few different reasons. One, it's a very nostalgic sort of story, so it actually takes place. A lot of the stories take place in like our hometown of like Johnson City, New York, Binghamton, New York. It's in upstate New York, if you're not familiar.
My fiance's from New York.
Oh, cool. Whereabouts?
She's from Fort Edward.
Fort Edward. Where's that?
Almost near Albany and
Okay.
Glen Falls, that area.
Right there. Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, she's even more upstate then.
Yep.
I like that story, yeah, because it's very nostalgic. It's about like, it's set back in like, I guess we don't say the time, but it's basically like the late 80s, early 90s, and kids in a neighborhood just like goofing off and horseplay and stuff. Um, and I think I really like the twist at the end, and the art that accompanies it, I think is like two of the pieces of art that accompany that story are like some of the best pieces that Chad did. And I think just as a whole, the art and the story come together to just form something really cool. So Dracula's Bride for me.
I don't think I've gotten that far yet, but I'll have to definitely check that out when I get to it. So I'll be
Okay,
like, all
cool.
right, let's see what he likes about this so much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your books are like, well, your first book is based off a real place. So, and I remember you posting something about real locations. So, how or why did you want to write stories based on real locations?
Hmm. Um, I think I mean, I always like hearing or watching movies or reading stories that are inspired by real places, because it's kind of cool to like to know that, oh my God, this is a real place. I can actually go to this place, and you know, either when you get there, it's just a normal place, but it's cool to have that sort of tale, like it's got kind of like been imprinted on that place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like why I think we like setting stories in our hometown and stuff. It's kind of cool to, now when I drive past the cemetery that inspired, the cemetery that's in our books, it's kind of cool because now I think about all the stories that are set there and stuff. And it's, if there's a readers who are interested enough in our stuff and they're in the area, it's, they might find it interesting to go to that cemetery and, see the sort of sites that inspire the stories. And probably just a practical reason, it's actually just, it's easier to write, about real places that you've been to,
Yeah.
because it's like it's already in your head, what they look like, the feeling, the sights, the smells. So yeah, I think that's probably why.
Nice. All right. So now you mentioned Cemetery Gates Media started about almost or about 2 years ago. It was summer 2015. Now, how did you guys come up with Cemetery Gates Media? How did
With the
yeah?
with the
How did it
name
get its
itself.
name? Yeah, how did you get its name?
Okay. So I mean, we're writing horror stories, and uh we're thinking, okay, we gotta come up with some kind of horror-y name.
Well,
And
you didn't
we
have
probably
to.
we didn't have to, I guess. But I guess we decided to, and actually, contrary to popular belief, I think a lot of people have actually been posting pictures of Pantera on our Facebook page and
Hmm.
stuff.
Oh
Because I
wow.
think apparently there's a Pantera song called Cemetery Gates.
Oh yep.
I don't really listen to Pantera or anything. No, if not I'm not dissing them. I've never listened to them, so it wasn't based on that. It's actually you ever heard of the Smiths?
The Smith. Don't think I have.
They're like an '80s sort of indie rock group from England, and they have one of their songs is actually called Cemetery Gates. And so, I guess that's basically where we got it from.
Okay. And
So
then
if
you
you
just
actually
add
look at,
media.
yeah, we added media just because at the time we were like, okay, we want to be able to because before we even got into just writing books, we were talking about doing like card games and other stuff, like potentially films that maybe down
Oh
the road
wow.
or something. So, yeah, so we wanted to kind of make this media, leave it at, not just books or not just,
Yeah.
publishing, like kind of
Yeah.
open it. Um,
Nice.
But yeah, Cemetery Gates is actually, if you look at the back of At the Cemetery Gates Year One, um, it says, I'll meet you at the cemetery gates. Um, that's actually a line from the song, Cemetery Gates.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. All right. So, since you already answered that question, now
Okay.
I'm going to make a new one off the top of my head. And that is, have any of your stories that you've ever made, or wrote, I should say, have they ever been inspired by true events that has happened to you?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, actually, there's a story in Corpse Cold called Amityville Beach. And that was actually inspired by the time I was probably 10 or so years old, and I saw my mom's doppelganger at the beach.
Oh, wow.
I was convinced I saw her double. I was at the beach, and it actually wasn't a beach. It's actually like, it's actually like a big lake, but it has like a sandy sort of beach to it. So for me, when I'm a little kid, oh, that's a beach.
Right.
So, I was there with my mom and my sisters, and I remember seeing this woman in the water, like not very far away, and I was like, oh my God, that looks exactly like my mom, and it creeped me the hell out. Like, I really just thought there's this woman was a copy of my mom, like, and she was like looking at me, and I like made my mom leave. I made her gather up everything and leave.
Oh,
I was
wow.
so afraid. So actually, that story, Amityville Beach, is actually inspired by that incident.
That's cool, because that kind of reminds me of some of the poetry or lyrics that I write. I sometimes write about my experience that I've had too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have one called The Ghost, and that is about in 2008. It was either 2008, 2009, where I was trying to sleep one night. And do you know what I mean by deadwood? Like, nothing can wake you up. Like, you're sleeping.
Is that what that term means?
Yeah. Yeah, like
Oh.
you're sleeping and nothing will wake you up. So you're like
Sure,
deadwood.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So nothing could wake me up. And I was sound asleep, like, nothing, no noises could get me to get up at all. And at about 2:30 in the morning, out of nowhere, I swear, I know it's not a fluke or anything, because this happened to me before the story I'm talking about. It happened to me another time before, and that is, I woke up because I heard my name in a whisper. So this time around, though, I wrote the story as in, like, there's a ghost trying to communicate with us. What does it have to say, or something like that?
Right.
So that's pretty much how that is inspired.
Oh, God. Dude, I'm in my basement right now. I'm like, I want to leave.
Well,
I'm afraid.
you're fine. I promise, you're fine. You'll be safe.
You know
But
what's
yeah,
funny? That actually. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut
no,
you
no,
off.
no, no. Go ahead.
This is not a scary story. It's just me fooling myself into think I had heard something. I remember I was like a teenager, and I was listening to music. I was listening to a John Lennon record, and I was just lying there in my bed by myself at night, and I heard John, and I freaked me the hell out. And I didn't, and it took me about half a minute to realize that it was on the recording. It was Yoko Ono saying John. But it was just so freaky. I didn't know it was coming, so it just freaked me out so much.
That's like another time. Oh man, now I'm remembering this. But so back when I was like still in high school, middle school, I don't even remember anymore. But it was actually wintertime, like it is right now. And I'm trying to sleep again because it's school the next day.
Mm.
Out of nowhere, there's banging on my windows. And like somebody's like, like hitting it, like smacking it, like trying to be a jerk or whatever. And the most interesting thing about this is that my mother's boyfriend went outside and came back inside just to tell me that they don't know what that was because there's no footprints leading up to my window.
Whoa.
So I'm just like, oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, that's freaky.
Yeah, so of course as a kid I'm just like, whatever.
Okay, that's a
I
good
think
attitude.
I kind of got used to it after a while. So later on in life, I actually did start investigating the paranormal. So And then I haven't done that in a while now. But yeah, I used to investigate the paranormal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've caught in some interesting stuff, but that's for everybody else to decide too, because you know how the world is nowadays, where that can't be real. You
No.
weren't there. You weren't there. Yeah. So we're coming to an end, John, unfortunately, but the second to last question is, are you planning on doing future project now using Kickstarter? Because I just want to make sure Corpse Code is your first Kickstarter, correct?
Yes, this is the first time we've ever used Kickstarter.
Okay. So do you see yourself using Kickstarter again for future projects?
We might down the road. I was actually just thinking about this earlier today just because just the response to Corpse Cold. I was talking to Chad and Joe. I was like, oh, should we do a Corpse Cold 2 someday? And then I was wondering maybe we should do it through Kickstarter again because it worked out so well. But I think now, just through like the audience we have and like doing Facebook ads and stuff, I don't really know if it's necessary, other than to raise money to pay Chad again or something. But it's a possibility. So I'll leave it at that. But I got to tell you one thing why I wouldn't want to do it again is like the shipping and packing everything was like a nightmare. So yeah,
Yeah, I could kind of tell when I got my books. I'm like, ooh.
it was it was just we did everything. I'm in the basement where I was packing everything, and I mean
Ooh.
we had like 600 something packages to go out, which
Ooh.
is like, and they're all like, a lot of them were like multiple books and
Yep.
stuff, and they were going all over the place. So it was just Joe and I down here. We had to sign all the books, put the bookmark in, the cards, package
Oh
them,
yeah.
write down the names, go into there and put rewards sent into the Kickstarter database, go on to the next name, and then there's a lot. There's like I think 80 something international orders alone.
Oh
So
wow.
that was like crazy. We had packages going as far as New Zealand, Finland, Japan.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty crazy. We were at the post office. We had to go to
Okay,
the
here
post
we
office
go.
for a few days, and we were there for 3 days or for 3 hours one day. Just us, just our packages. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Oh, they must have loved you that day.
Oh yeah, I ended up bringing donuts on the last day for them, just because I
Oh,
felt so
nice.
bad. I felt so bad that we were just like barraging them. So
That's awesome,
yeah,
though. I bet they appreciated it. Let's
really
hope they
good
did.
sports about it. No, they
Oh, I
did. They
bet.
were actually really nice about it. Well, I think the one woman was like, "Okay, this is cool. I'm just gonna have to deal with you guys for a long time, and sink in, and not have to go get a new order up every all the time." And so the receipts were just insanely long. They were
Oh,
so
I bet.
long. They're huge.
Yeah, I mean, I used to sell stuff on Amazon just to get rid of stuff, and I mean,
Uh-huh.
I remember one Christmas I had like way too many orders to send out, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it can be crazy.
Oh yes, and it gets more crazier now because at least now, your book is on like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and stuff, so that helps too for you for shipping wise.
Oh yeah, we don't have to handle anything.
No, exactly. So um, now before we actually talk about that, I'll give you the last question, and
Okay.
guess what? Can you guess what it is, John?
Did you already ask me it, or did I
Nope.
already answer it?
Nope. It's a tricky question, John.
Okay. Oh boy.
Oh, here we go. And the final question for you, John, is what are some differences between your books and other books?
Ooh,
The,
okay.
the idea of that question was I was trying to figure out how to word it, but pretty much the idea of the question is, if you were going to sell me your book, how would you sell me it? Like, what would be your seller's
Oh.
pitch?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think I think our books, like, and they're not all the same, but uh we're kind of telling not like straight adult horror, hardcore horror stories. We're basically telling like supernatural, spooky campfire tales for adults.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so basically the stories, the kind of storytelling that you grew up like loving, but just aged, aged a few decades. And so yeah, it's that plus, we like to tell stories that are inspired by urban legends, folklore, real life places. So that's kind of our brand, I guess. That's sort of what we do. Spooky campfire tales for adults. Let's put it on a t-shirt.
Well then, yeah, put it on a t-shirt. Might as well. Everybody else seemed to be doing it. Like after, not after you. Was it after you? No, no, no. So before I found you guys, there was another book that was coming out that I actually backed too on Kickstarter called Nightmare Soup.
Oh yeah, yeah, we heard of them.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
definitely heard of them.
yeah. Another weird one that I just came across on Amazon one day, not Amazon, Facebook, because the guy did a sponsored ad for it. So they took scary stories to tell in the dark, but they said it was something like scary stories to tell if you dare, or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah. So I have not read that one, but I have read like the original Nightmare Soup. Um,
Okay.
I have Nightmare Soup 2, which I'm kind of dreading reading because when I received it, it came in a very bad shape.
Oh no.
And so when I messaged them about it, they weren't too. I don't want to say. I don't know if they were friendly or what the attitude I got, but to
Mm.
me, I felt like Nightmare Soup people were too busy to care because
Oh,
they're
that sucks.
because I'm supposed to be hearing back from them about sending that copy back to get a new one, but I haven't
Oh,
heard from them yet.
oh, that sucks.
And I
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're a customer and you're buying their book, and you don't get a book that comes in in good shape, they should send you another copy, without any question. Yeah,
yeah.
because we actually had somebody. We've had a few. We're sending out 600 whatever packages. We had a couple people. Somebody wrote. Actually, it was a printing error. We get them because we're not opening up every single book and like flipping through to check every single page. We're just assuming it's all good. From the same printer. Somebody actually got a copy where all the printing was like looked like it was like doubled, like it was like really blurry looking.
Oh, that's
Um,
weird.
so yeah, like just halfway through the book, it just all the font was just really weird. So we sent her a copy like right away. So yeah,
Yeah, see, that's the
that
way
was
it
weird.
should be. Like, even with the books that I have, I even say, hey, if they come damaged or whatever, send them back. I'll ship it out. I'll give you
Right.
guys a new copy. I don't really like saying I have a book because I just put out a new one, and I actually just finished the one that I have, and
Hmm.
apparently the program that I use for my spell check and stuff
Uh-huh.
didn't catch a couple words, so I'm just
Uh-oh.
like, oh no.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst. I hate
But
that.
I hate it too. But I was just like, well, people should at least know what I'm trying to say here, so it's not bad. But it's just like, like, oh my god.
I hear you, man. It happens. I think there's we've had to go back and make edits to our books a few times because we found spelling errors, because we thought we went through it with a fine tooth comb and still there's just like one thing here or there.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah. So, John, before we call this a wrap, now I was mentioning you can get your guys' books at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Is there any other place?
We actually, you can also get some of our hardcover books at lulu.com.
Lulu.com.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lulu.
Yep.
They're also
I
available
use that.
there.
Yep. I use that place
Okay.
too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but primarily, yeah, if you just go on Amazon and search Brhel and Sullivan, search any of our Corpse Cold, New American Folklore, Tales from Grandview Cemetery, any of our books, they're going to be on Amazon and on Barnes & Noble.
Or you can just be like me and just type in Cemetery Gates Media, and there you go.
There you go. There you. That's the way too. Yeah. Also, yeah, our website cemeterygatesmedia.com has all the info about our each book has like a page about it with some reviews and a synopsis, and then has a link to go buy the books. So it's pretty simple.
Yes, it is simple because I've seen the site and it's good. It's good,
Cool.
simple, easy to use.
Cool. Thanks.
Yes, and I bet that's the way you wanted it to go anyway, I'm assuming. Nice,
That
simple.
is what we want. We want it to be as simple as possible. I mean, I basically just think, okay, if I'm just some person, I've never seen these guys before, what's going to make the most, simple sense to me. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I don't know if it's still going on, John, if you want to mention it, but you are running a promotion on Amazon. I don't know if that's still going on.
Oh yeah. So if you do, if you use the code BookGift17 at checkout, you can actually get $5 off a $15 book purchase. So if you wanted to get Corpse Cold, it's normally $19.99, so you can get $5 off, get it for $14.99. Or if you didn't want to get Corpse Cold, you want to get two of our other books. Those are the other ones are like $10. So you can get two of them for $15. So yeah, it's like a $5 off thing. I think it's yeah. So yeah, that's what's going on.
Yeah, I'll have to check into that. Hopefully you're still going on next week. If not, oh well.
Okay.
All right, so John, so thank you for joining me tonight. I apologize that my fiance got distracted with other things, but that's okay. Maybe next
Thanks for
time.
having me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah.
I definitely felt bad when you first messaged me this past weekend about the ER. That's not good.
Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. But I told I don't bring it up too much anymore in the house because I told I was like kind of I guess a baby about it. I ended up in the ER for some stomach pain, and my wife was like, "You don't know what pain's like." She's given birth to two kids, so
Right.
So yeah.
It's like that Family Guy quote. You take the bottom of your lip and you stretch it over the back of your head. And that's what it's like.
It's pretty brutal.
It is pretty brutal. So John, I just also want to say that, thank you for being a sport. I know it's hard to, plan around the holidays like it is right now, but, I do appreciate your time. And you are more than welcome to come back onto the podcast here if you ever want to chat about a book again or upcoming project or something.
Okay, yeah, thank you. No, I mean I appreciate you giving me the forum to come talk to you. It's been fun. It's been fun talking to you, and I love always talking about stories and horror and stuff. So yeah, I definitely love to come back on.
Definitely. It's actually kind of funny. I haven't actually put this in public yet in years because I've been trying to figure out how to do it. But me and my fiance and a couple other of our friends, been a long day. A couple of our friends, along with my fiance and I, are still not really quite sure what's going on anymore. But we want to try to make our own like scary stories to tell in the dark because we feel like since it's been our childhood too that we would like to give back to the audience. So who knows? Maybe you might see our name on a book one day for that or something.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, man. The more the merrier.
Exactly. But yeah, so there you go, people. There's the the exclusive release of that information. So yeah, there you go. And no, we do not know what the hell our title is going to be, so don't even bother asking. But yeah, so John, before I end the interview here, now for people that would like to get to know you guys more too, how can people reach you or find Cemetery Gates Media?
Okay. Yeah, so as I said, the website is cemeterygatesmedia.com. And then we're pretty active on social media. So you can find us on Facebook or at facebook.com/cemeterygatesmedia. On Instagram, we're Cemetery Gates M. And then also the same on Twitter, we're Cemetery Gates M. So those are pretty much the primary places you can find us. Oh, we also have a Tumblr. So cemeterygatesmedia.tumblr.com.
That's
That's
awesome.
where you find us. Oh, I also actually I myself am pretty active on Twitter. So if you wanted to talk to me, you can go to my Twitter. I'm at John Brhel, so it's at JOHNBRHEL.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I followed you on the podcast and maybe my personal. I don't remember anymore. I do know that you retweeted my photo of when I got my reward from you guys,
Oh
and
yeah, totally. No, yeah, thanks for
so,
sharing that. That's awesome.
yeah, I just felt like you guys sent that much out, especially before the holiday, and I mean that was pretty impressive too.
I
Uh,
told you we were rushing down here. We were it was many hours spent down here, but like we were we told people we wanted it to have it in everybody's hands before Christmas. So
yeah.
I'm glad it was able to get to you.
Well, I'm not that far from New York. We're only,
Okay.
yeah, I'm your next door neighbor. We're in Vermont right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So cool.
yeah. So if you're ever in Vermont, you can shoot us a message or whatever.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, that's if you want to,
Yeah, sure. Hey, come chat. Scary
right?
stories.
Go get some scary stories and coffee, whatever. Yeah,
Whatever you guys have up there, maple syrup or something.
yeah. We got maple. Yeah, we got maple syrup.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. All right, John. Thanks again. And I usually, when I end a interview or any episode, I say "stay scary." So, on the count of three, if you would like to say "stay scary" with me, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. And John, I'll let you start the countdown.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Stay
Stay
scary.
scary.
Do you want me to do it longer? Should I do it longer like you did it?
Sure, if you want to. All right. Ready?
Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Stay
Stay
scary.
scary. Cool.